You know, when you've got 15 seconds to figure this out, and you either figure it out or something really bad happens. You know, you think about it after the fact. But you can see the rail. That's the hydro. If you can see that move on the camera. That's what controls the carriage back and forth on the track. Basically, whatever the length of the track is, this is 30 foot of track. Subtract basically 4 feet. So this does 26 feet. According to the company, it does 26 feet 4 inches. But through ingenuity, I managed to squeeze a 26 foot 8 inch log in. I had about that much space at each end of the log. I literally had to set the entire mill down, and then I took the tower tops off and flipped the cables over so that I got that extra fraction of an inch on each end to literally get that log in. That was way tight. Trying to think of what else. So basically, yeah, the company, they're still in existence. They're making parts for all the old mills. This style of tooth pattern is getting difficult for them to have a manufacturer cut the blade sockets out. That was one of the things that I did when I worked there at the factory. Is these blades came in to the company. These were sealed in. There was a circle, but there was no chamfered edge, if that's the right word for it, that these shanks go into. Then anybody that's really paying close attention and deals with these things on a regular basis, you know, these aren't normal shanks. They don't normally have this inlaid hardening on the back side of the tooth here to protect the shank from wear and tear, because as this wears down here, you get more sawdust can slide in on the side of the blade and create heat. Basically, no matter what time of year it is, whether it's 110 degrees out or negative 40 out, these blades should be cool to the touch. And if they're not cool to the touch, something ain't right. Usually 99% of the time, maybe you can see that, maybe. That might be visible. I don't know if it is, but anyway, I'm trying to show that the corners are missing on the teeth. That's why he stopped cutting on this. It just wasn't cutting. It didn't sound right. You know, you could probably cut 1x2s for an entire day with these teeth, and you would never have a problem with it. But you start getting into what was the order? The order was for 6x8s, and you get into a cut that big with teeth that are missing corners, you're not necessarily going to have a good day. So you can start having the blade wander in the cut. You can have the blades get hot, or you can just have the blades, they literally just get stuck in the cut and start smoking the belts. You know, there's all things you have to learn to listen to, whether you're running a band mill or a circular sawmill. You know, I don't see very many people with band mill with the wedges, but we get into the bigger cuts, once the mill gets into the cut, we'll use wedges to help keep the timber bind. We can get, you know, timber bind from the trees whipping around in the wind. Oh, let's see. I guess not all the mills have this lower stabilizer. There's bearing on that side, and then if I can see it, you might be able to see it. I can't see it. Oh, I can look in the other camera. There's two other bearings there on the other side, so that stabilizes. If you can see, there's a couple of springs in here, and that helps stabilize the edger blade, because it's getting bouncing, you know, as it goes into the cut. You got this other stabilizer here that comes out and stabilizes into the side of the wood. For the main blade, when you're running over an 8-inch cut, it doesn't come down any more than an 8-inch cut. And this roller can stabilize onto the top of the cut. And then I guess that's the only, there is this stabilizer here, so that when you're into a maximum depth cut, if it tries to timber bind on you, you have at least a piece of steel in between the two pieces of wood to help keep it from pinching down on the blade. This gate here is on this cable, so when the carriage goes down the track, it goes up, and then when you stop and you put it in reverse, it'll flip down and push the lumber back. This is actually an extension for a 127 mil. If it was a 128, it would stick out an inch farther, but to help this thing be able to lift it and be lighter, I put a 127 on there. So if you're cutting 1 by anything, 1 by 2s to 1 by 12s, you have to remember that, and you got to reach out there and grab the board with it that way. And then, yeah, that's the difference between the 4-inch and the 8-inch, is there's all these extension pieces. Another one up there, and then there's this piece of tin that goes in here. This bracket here, that's the guide for the blade, it gets moved out onto this tin. Yeah, that's another extension piece there. So basically, this collar, if you're in the narrow configuration, basically everything else out here that's containing the blade, that collar gets moved to the outside between the nut and the blade collar, because those two pieces that are on each side of the blade are machined. And when they were working at the factory, they had about, I don't know, 10 different sizes, and there was only a few thousandths or a fraction of an inch different, and that was to get the blade alignment right, so that there's this little tiny triangle here in the corner. If I get a tape measure, I might be able to show it. See how off I am. Yeah, that's just about 1/8 of an inch. I have no idea if that's going to come in on the camera. So basically, if you're running the mill and this changes, and if this starts disappearing, you know something is starting to get out of whack, and you need to start looking into things, or just simply sharpen your teeth. So many times it's related to just having sharp teeth. Besides machining in the sockets and the blade, that was probably one of the most precise things that I did up there for the company. That was only a few thousandths tolerance making that. It was a multi-step process. You cut that thing, I mean, it spun, that thing must have spun at like 30 RPM, that cutter. You cut in the angle to the blade, then you cut it